On today's episode of the Glue Guys, we are not. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about that Celtics game.
No, nothing happened last night.
There's actually some good numbers in the Celtics game. Do you know the Nets had less turnovers than the Celtics?
Is that true? Wow.
So they have won. We'll come talk about that. Actually, we're going to talk about trade deadline. I've been holding back. I've been withholding from you.
Let it out. Let it all out, Mike.
I'm not going to make a comparison about withholding. I think we can all. Our mind leads.
Mount Smelts is about to erupt. I can feel it. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the Glue Guys. This is Mike here. Say hello, Brian.
Hello.
Check us out on Twitter at BKGlueGuys, NetsDaily.com, The Athletic. Get yourself behind the paywall at theathletic.com/GlueGuys, a subsidiary of the New York Times Company. By the way, Brian, out today via the New York Times Company's communications page, their PR outfit, there is a series that they are promoting called Between the Lines, which looks at the it's how America's biggest game, football, grapples with America's biggest issue.
Okay.
Race. You disagree? Yeah. Is it bowling? Is it actually pickleball is probably.
Pickleball is taking off, let me tell you.
A pretty racist sport.
Having a moment. Pickleball?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Brian.
I got a lot to learn.
But I am the, I guess the title's executive producer, not to title
Mike,
drop here.
Look at you.
I've been working with Tashawn Reed is the host of the series. Tashawn covers the Raiders for The Athletic. He has done an amazing job. He's worked 16 months on this series. He's gotten incredible voices, people in the game talking about their experiences, dealing with race-based glass ceilings, dealing with trying to become socially active when the fear of you're going to get cut in the NFL is omnipresent. Tashawn has done an incredible job, and the New York Times they released a press release about it today. The trailer is out on the Athletic Football Show. I am super duper proud. The series itself comes out on Valentine's Day.
Okay.
First episode drops, which is the Tuesday after the Super Bowl. It is going to be a thrill ride, an absolute thrill ride. If you actually care about diversity and inclusion and things like that, this is the series for you.
Nice.
And so I say that, and then let's talk about fake trades. But yeah, so I just wanted everyone to kind of know that is happening.
Nice.
I joked on Twitter. Most people think I'm a Wizards fan with a Nets pod. I am that. But I'm also a guy who does other stuff.
Does long-form narrative journalistic projects for The Athletic. Why be so bashful? You're being sheepish.
I'm being sheepish.
Hats off to you.
Yeah, because this shows a different tone. Anyways, speaking of, we're okay. I kind of want to retrace something. Brian does something that I think is an amazing gift to our listeners. Brian does a live stream of the games. How could you find that live stream? What would be the best way?
It's on Twitch. You should go to the Discord first, but if you just want to go on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/thebrianegan. Okay, we're coming out all the way out with this one. But yeah, we stream the games to Twitch, and it's super fun.
Yeah, and Brian, you watch pretty much every game on Twitch, and people are watching with you. You watch a lot.
I watch a lot. I mean, it's been a rough couple of weeks, but yes, in general, I when we get closer to the playoffs, it's going to really ramp up, Mike.
And you did it last night.
I did do it last night, which was a rough one.
How dark did that go?
It was rough. Actually, the ones where it's just a complete blowout on either direction, it's a lot easier just because you just start talking about other random things, get into astrology, whatever it is. So we veered off path last night because, whoa boy, Mike, that was a doozy.
So I did put out, I wondered, did last night's game mean nothing, something, or everything? My mind always says it means nothing. It's one game, yeah, sure, it's Boston, but the Nets didn't have Ben Simmons, who knows if when he's gonna play again. Of course, they didn't have Kevin Durant. They did not have T.J. Warren, which is kind of we kind of forget that T.J. Warren isn't playing basketball, and he was the guy who, when KD got hurt, he was the guy we were saying, T.J. Warren's gonna get buckets. He's gonna supply the offense that the team needs, and they even had him. For you, nothing, something, everything.
I mean, I'm
sure you're gonna say everything. Yeah.
There was my only real criticism of it was kind of that starting lineup that we rolled out with Sethi and Kyrie against a very tall Boston Celtics. It was just it didn't make sense on paper. Super didn't make sense right out of the gate. And then we kind of stuck with it a really long time. And then our first sub off the bench was Cam Thomas, I believe, for Joe Harris. And I was like, give me some Yuta in here. Heck, give me some Markieff Morris, anything. Because, it just was like a JV team versus the varsity team. It was like, we're just not tall enough right now. Like, sometimes basketball can be simple like that, you know?
Kyrie played 31 minutes in this game, a game that was just they were down 30 points in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Then the rest of the quarters, they never mounted a real charge. There was a moment when I think they were like within 20 of the Celtics, but they lost by 43 points, which is a substantial margin. I wonder if Kyrie wanted to play, when he's trying to be a leader on some level and he wants to be out there for the team. He played the most minutes in the game last night. What I would have liked to have seen from Jacque Vaughn is not to quit after the first quarter, but to really assess in the second quarter and be like, okay, because they didn't mount. They were outscored by Boston by 4 points in the second quarter, so it wasn't like the game got closer.
Yeah,
I would have liked to have just been like, hey, we're gonna rest. And Cam Thomas, you're gonna put up 45 shots in this game. He put up 16 shots. Cam Thomas, when given the opportunity, he has no conscience. He's just going to go out there and fire buckets.
And I don't, not to say that I minded the Cam. I thought that
I loved it.
The Cam Thomas early first quarter, or mid first quarter sub was like, oh, okay, great. We're just going to let's get some Kessler Edwards in here. Let's make this a journey. And then that didn't happen. So it was kind of a weird hybrid, confusing, half in, half out approach to being competitive in that game. I mean, we were 2 feet all the way out and being competitive immediately. So we should have maybe addressed that. I agree.
So do you think it's something? Should we take? Is there anything to actually take away from this game? Like, is it something like, oh, we better not get the Celtics in round 2 if we even get to round 2?
No, I don't think so. I mean, missing obviously 2 stars. I mean, I don't know. Do you?
No, I don't think it means a single thing. Like, I have no. I forget what the Nets matchup with the Celtics have been this year.
Not good.
Not good. Yeah. But I don't. I mean, the Celtics are the best team in the Eastern Conference. Last night was horrific, completely horrific. But Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons are your second and third best defenders. They are particularly important defenders against Boston because they add so much length on the wings that it makes it more difficult for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to get off. They make it a little more difficult for Robert Williams to get his buckets because they are more deterrents at the rim, particularly KD over Ben Simmons.
Yeah. You lose a lot with the Seth Curry and Joe Harris in place of KD and Ben Simmons. You do miss. We go from being a tall, very defensive minded team to a short, not defensive minded team pretty immediately. Yeah.
All right. Here's what I got for us today. I have some big questions around the trade deadline. I have fake trades that I'm obsessed with.
You're obsessed. My guy is obsessed
with. There's one in particular that I'm really obsessed with.
You're freaking out over it.
Yeah, and all this stuff, here's the art of the fake trade. You can't just put like Zion Williamson in a fake trade, right? It has to be guys that are out there to be had. And you have to kind of read the wind a little bit here. I'm going to start with my first big question for you,
okay,
Brian. Without making a trade, any like significant trade of any sort. So I would say anything above a level of like flipping Cam Thomas for a backup big. If healthy, can the Nets win a championship this year, do you think? Like, do you think they need – essentially what I'm asking is, do you think they need to make a semi-significant trade to have a shot at winning a championship?
It's a good way to put it. I don't think they need – to have a shot, I don't think they do. I'm increasingly thinking, there's just – once any of our, like, big players go down, we – actually, although like this past the Knicks game, the Lakers game, we're able to beat up on scrappy / teams missing their their best players without our best players. So it comes out in the wash a little bit. Yeah, I'd say we have a shot, full strength. I think we have a shot. I think that's fair to say. I think if you say otherwise, you're not being super fair. But can you increase the likelihood? I don't know, Mike. Tell me something. Give me some ideas.
Well, I think you can increase the likelihood for sure. I think that what I'm always trying to figure out, we've talked about this before, is the gap between improving consistency and building the foundation that you need to actually, like the problem with last year, they were just so disjointed. The team was a complete mess. They thought they were getting Ben Simmons back, and they didn't get Ben Simmons back, and then they got swept in the first round in a somewhat tight, the tightest sweep you could have. And so this year it's been exciting when like the team is actually playing together and you're seeing some level of sort of cohesion being built. I think this team can win a championship with what they have. It really depends on everyone being fully healthy, which is what you could say for any team. There are things that I am worried about.
Oh.
And this isn't a new thing. My primary concern is Ben Simmons. I'm not saying that as like, wow, what a shocking hot take. But I am so worried about Ben Simmons in the playoffs. Because in those 7-game series, we all know that the way NBA defense is key on weakness, whether it be switching onto Kyrie to force Kyrie to guard, or when Ben Simmons is on offense, the other team completely even more disregarding him and then doing hack-a-Ben anytime the Nets are in the bonus. Because that's the thing about hack-a-Ben. You could do it in the first and the second and the third and the fourth when the Nets are in the bonus.
Yeah.
And you just continue to, like you can kill possessions, kill flow, all that stuff. And Ben Simmons is not mentally there enough to handle the pressures of a postseason yet. Like he's not even, and who knows, like these injuries, they seem like, I'm not doubting that they're not legit. They're just fuzzy. There's some fuzziness around these injuries. And particularly the fact that like, what was it? After the game, he had 0 points. What was it? Like 3 weeks ago, he didn't play the next game.
Yeah.
Because of injury.
Oh, wow. I like where your conspiratorial mind is headed.
Yeah. I am not deathly afraid.
You think he had like a hangover from the 0 point game is what you're saying. Like,
I think he ultimately was just like, hey, like there's always something to complain about. I play rec ball. Actually, I don't. I just shoot basketballs by myself.
Do you?
But I can even in that setting get hurt and decide not to play next game.
A little one on none. I like it.
I'm like, again, Kyrie playing GTA 5 or 4?
5, yeah.
5.
4 would be very troubling. I'll be honest.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just from like 2007 or something. It's just.
I am extremely concerned about Ben Simmons, but so this conversation is trade deadline, right? What do you do, Bri? Like, I think we haven't heard Ben Simmons' name really be in rumors. And I would think the second that the Nets say, we'll give you Ben Simmons for this, that other team is leaking it because they know that it's going to tank Ben Simmons and it's going to tank his value. And they'll be able to get, if they truly want Ben Simmons, like the second the Nets let the cat out the bag that maybe they would trade Ben Simmons, I think it's kind of over for him. I don't think he has the mental
fortitude,
resiliency or fortitude to handle being in trade rumors right now.
Man, you're really playing armchair psychologist here. I mean, I'm here for it. I like it. But so you think that he's on the trade block, but in a clandestine way is what you're saying?
I think if you're being an honest assessment of this team, you cannot rely on Ben Simmons in the playoffs. There's no, and I like Ben Simmons. I like the things he does. We've talked about this before. Like, if you look at him statistically, he's a positive on the floor. He can be impactful on defense. He puts up assists like crazy. He does end up actually getting open shots for 3-point shooters, which is incredible because he refuses to like drive to the basket on a consistent basis. He just kind of like, we've talked about, he floats into the free throw line where there's no one there and then kind of just whips these little passes around. It is incredible that he can do all this while not being a threat to score. I just, that in the playoffs is not going to work. Like it's not,
Mike, answer this question. Is he on the deep state trade block? Is he on the secret trade block? That's the question.
I think he's on the secret trade block.
Wow.
I 100%. Because also this is a massive season and trade deadline for Sean Marks. The idea that like if the Nets get bounced in the second round, that Sean Marks won't get fired, I as good of a job as I think he's done with Yuta Watanabe, and Royce O'Neal is not a negative ultimately. And grabbing, who else has he grabbed? The Nick Claxton pick, you could still give him massive credit. The Nick Claxton contract, one of the best contracts in the NBA right now. Who did KD want to get fired this offseason?
Few guys.
Your guy, Steve Nash.
This is also for the YouTube. I have we're just missing Kevin Nash right now. That's how I feel. I mean, sorry,
Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash, the Diesel. No, Kevin Durant, and I have them hugging. The seminal photo of Steve Nash hugging Kevin.
Oh, because Steve Nash can't coach, and all he can do is just provide.
Yeah, provide emotional support, or just mostly be just a representation of our feelings towards Kevin Durant. That's sort of what it is. Yeah.
Nash was like a parent who fostered the artistic side of a child, sort of in the way that Steven Spielberg's mother did, but could never provide the structure in his life.
I never watched it. I still haven't watched. Is The Fablemans? Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. If you're Jewish, it's really good. It's a lot of Judaism.
I do. I mean, I've been accused before.
I know you've been around. Yeah. You've been around the tribes. Yeah. So you understand.
Although I did 23andMe, 80th percentile Neanderthal genes of the less than 2% of the population that has Neanderthal genes, Mike.
So what does that mean to you?
It has. It's got a couple of weird traits associated with they ring very true for me. Bad sense of direction the Neanderthals have, which is very true. I have to street view everything before I get there. I got to visualize it.
Is that true?
That's true. Really, I need visual cues in order to
what
get
else
around.
Do Neanderthals?
They're better sprinters than long distance runners, which is so true for me. I was very fast sprinter and I don't think I could do a 10-minute mile. That was really slow, long distance.
So Neanderthal means you're that's a stuck in the past. That's an older version of.
As far as I understand it, there's up to around 40,000 years ago or 40,000 BC. There's still some lingering tribes of Neanderthal people in northern Europe somewhere, and they got mated into the general Homo sapien population in a small way. So there's a small little vein of genetics from that period of time. What it does for you, it's those random things like that, sprinting and not knowing where you're sprinting to, sprinting into the woods.
Desire to have soups every day? Is that
could be? That could be. They do the cilantro thing, It gets it down to that granular level. If you have the gene of you hate cilantro.
Do you hate cilantro?
I like it. So, okay. But also you can asparagus pea. If you can smell it or not, that's part of it. Which I can.
Oh, I thought that was universal.
No, some people can't smell the asparagus pea. Isn't that crazy? And it's not that it doesn't smell; they just can't smell it.
Interesting.
Isn't that weird?
Let's do a quick break. Coming back, I have fake trades.
Nice.
And we're back, Brian.
Hit me.
So, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of Ben Simmons in the playoffs. Are you afraid?
Yeah, I mean, everyone is. There's a collective fear about this. It gets brought up now and again about Ben Simmons in the playoffs. Also, on the YouTube channel, the comments, Sixers fans infiltrated the YouTube, and they were like, "We cannot wait to play Ben Simmons in the playoffs." from our vantage point.
I mean, I think. Don't you think there's a mental load on the rest of the team when they play with Ben Simmons? Because you're
going in on the poor guy. Poor guy. We just found out he's on the shadow trade block. This is rough. This is a rough episode for Ben.
He's in the what's the program in Bourne Ultimatum, Glenstone or Treadstone?
I'm not going to know this. I didn't watch those movies.
Yeah. Okay. Great flicks. Great flicks. Fantastic Matt Damon performance.
Yeah.
Revolutionized action films for a generation. But I don't know. I know where this came from. It's because I watched him play basketball, and I know what playoff basketball is like on some level. And it's also because I do think this team has a chance to win a championship. And I don't think the Ben Simmons project, this is such a delicate year. It's so delicate because, is Kyrie staying or going? Is Kevin going to ask for a trade at the end of the year if Kyrie leaves or if the Nets can't do anything? Is Ben Simmons' value, in fact, the highest it could possibly be right now? I don't know that, but I am so fearful of him in the playoffs. So here's
Yeah.
what you have to think about. Here's the fake trades. And I have fake trades without Ben Simmons.
Okay.
But you have to think about the teams that are like the Utah Jazz, Indiana Pacers, sort of these teams that you thought were tanking, but have a little juice to them.
Okay.
But because they are where they are in their maturation process, they can sort of take on the Ben Simmons project. Because the Ben Simmons project it's a long-term, it's Avatar 2. It's the way of water. It's going to take a while before the technology catches up to the way you actually want to put out the movie. So you tell me, are these guys like just completely like trash and you would never do it? Mike Conley and Jared Vanderbilt for Ben Simmons. Here's why I like it. Okay. Jared Vanderbilt is like that 4-5 athletic energy guy. He's actually out of the starting lineup for the Utah Jazz. Walker Kessler is the new starting center, new starting big for the Jazz. And Mike Conley he has a 2-year deal. I've always been obsessed with Mike Conley.
I know you really have. It's interesting.
I just think he's Malcolm Brogdon for the Nets. Like he's the steady backup point guard. He's averaging like 8-9 assists this year. His shooting's down a little bit, but that's also because there's he's taking more volume, or he's taking. It's harder to shoot if you don't have Donovan Mitchell next to you.
Yeah.
Also, he's older, and we've always see guys when they get older, their 2-point percentage goes down. I like Mike Conley a lot for this team because I do think if you get rid of Ben Simmons, you're going to need a ball handler to play with your backup lineups. He could be in lineups with Kyrie because Kyrie ultimately also isn't a point guard, as we've talked about so many times in the past. I think that and Utah is a team that have been rumored to be interested in Ben Simmons at one point. And so you say, here is Mike, get me basically 2 low-end starters, high-end bench players for Ben Simmons, who is impactful and can be good, but I just don't have any faith for him in the playoffs. Is that just not interest you?
I'm mostly thinking about like how to maintain the value of Ben Simmons. I mean, you're talking about this in a very practical way, and I applaud you because that's you're just trying to like eke out playoff wins, and I get that. But also, there's like a sort of long-term thing where like you get one chance to trade Ben Simmons, and if that's going to be for a sort of potentially backup point guard level player and a solid role player that kind of fits a need. Like that's a pretty we just traded James Harden for him, and I get it. Like James Harden has his own issues, and he's on a sort of declining part of his career as well. Fine, but like I don't know. I feel I kind of want a little more star power. I mean, maybe this is me being greedy. I don't know but if we're gonna go that route, like is there any star power in this situation? Because if not, I mean, I'm here for that. But like, and if we're just kind of making advancements on the edges and actually playing practical X's and O's, like does this player fit into the rotation? That's fine. But like, also just like, damn, we got Mike Conley out of this whole long like trip around the world to get to James Harden to Ben Simmons to Mike Conley. I don't know.
Mike Conley and like a backup big who just doesn't really do anything.
And this is like there is a little bit of like marketing involved with this to my mind. It's just like this is maybe we're at the point now where we have to eat the fact that this is going to be an unsexy trade whenever it does happen, if it does happen.
So that's my thing. So like, I would love to hold on to Ben Simmons, basically banish him. Like the best scenario, I think, because I think if he plays in the playoffs, his value is going to tank because I think it's not going to go well. It's going to be the bright spotlight of Ben Simmons not scoring points in the playoffs is going to be such a big deal that you're not going to be able to then like. You also think about GMs if they're going to trade for Ben Simmons. You have to convince owners that Ben Simmons is good, and they'll be like the guy who scored 0 points against the Cleveland Cavaliers or whatever. It is this hard thing of like, if you trade Ben Simmons for Mike Conley or Malik Beasley or Mike Conley and Jared Vanderbilt, that sucks. Yeah. Then the butterfly effect of James Harden from LeVert and Jared Allen into James Harden and draft picks, great, right? Draft picks go away, and then it's like down into
just always diminishing returns on this thing,
right?
Yeah,
But if you're trying to win a championship this year, I almost don't think you can wait to trade the Ben Simmons chip this offseason. Like I just don't think you have. I almost don't think they can win a championship with Ben Simmons.
Wow, you're going in. This is I feel like this is like a total 180 from where you've been like the last couple of weeks on Ben Simmons.
I know, because I've just been thinking about it a lot. I've just been picturing what
Somebody's been talking to you. Who's been talking to you? Somebody's in your ear.
Rich Paul. Rich Paul's a target. I do want to, I know this is also one of my, this is one of the things I obsess about. I do think LeBron is going to be available. Like, he's maybe going to want to be traded this offseason. Particularly if the Lakers miss the playoffs and they have no tangible way to, really improve their roster. I'm not breaking news here. I really think the Nets are one of the teams that he would go to because of his connection to Kyrie. And he wanted Kyrie to come to the Lakers because of his previous connection with Kevin Durant, because he's never played in New York.
Yeah.
Way to make it happen, though, you need Ben Simmons on the roster to flip. And also, here's the thing. Ben Simmons is a clutch client, I'm pretty sure. And as we've seen in the past, LeBron will get clutch clients paid, but ultimately the guy that Clutch is most trying to help is LeBron. Mm-hmm. So if LeBron wants to go to Brooklyn, he will say, hey, Ben, live in LA, play for the Lakers. Life's great. That's basically how things are going to go.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about that. Maybe we haven't, but that's the version of it where it's, you get the sexy star power a little bit back from now. Now the trip around the world seems less, less like diminishing returns over and over again.
Well, another trade I like is
would you not? You don't want to even wait till the offseason to see if that manifests. You want to get ahead of this now for Mike Conley and get out of the LeBron sweepstakes altogether.
So, yes, I think I would, and I will say, if you had Mike Conley and Joe Harris, you technically would have the contracts to get LeBron. What may happen is that another thing that has been emerging is that Nick Claxton is on one of the best contracts in basketball. He's become the Nets' best trade piece technically. He's such a more significant trade piece than Ben Simmons. So the Nets, because of Nick Claxton, have a guy who
we got a pot sweetener right there.
Yeah, it's like a real jewel to trade away. If you put Nick and whatever draft picks that they can have together, plus Joe Harris has value, I think, still in the NBA. In this offseason, they could be very interesting, and particularly if guys want to come to Brooklyn, which I think they still may.
Would you want to do so? Ben Simmons, Joe Harris, Nick Claxton, whatever, and then for LeBron and whatever comes back to make the salaries work. Is that something you would want to do? You would do that. You do that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. LeBron's still amazing, and
it's a particularly good fit potentially between because he does a lot of the Ben Simmons stuff, but then he actually has a whole
he's
a whole bag.
He's like a winner, and not a complete.
Whoa, you're going in on Ben.
I want everyone to picture what this is going to be like with Ben Simmons in the playoffs, right? Yeah. And I would love it if he played basketball and he had steady improvement, but he's had this step forward, 2 steps back, step forward, 2 steps back. Mm-hmm. He is impactful. I just think right now, we talked before the season, the best situation for Ben Simmons is the Nets because Kyrie and KD will get buckets and all Ben has to do is just fill the gaps. And he has done that. I don't think Brooklyn's the best situation for Ben Simmons because he really ultimately needs to go to the Houston Rockets or some bad team. And he just needs to play in the way that Markelle Fultz went to the Magic. Yeah. And we didn't care about Markelle Fultz anymore. And Markelle Fultz has rounded himself into he's flawed, but he has a career.
Yeah.
He's a guy. Ben Simmons is better than Markelle Fultz. And I think he needs to go to Indiana or he needs to go to Utah. If you go to Utah, live your life, go to Aspen.
Live your life.
Or wait, what's Park City is Utah?
Sure.
Go to hang out in Park City, get tapped into that social scene.
Yeah.
Make that your Instagram
get
profile.
Some non-alcoholic beers. Yeah.
Yeah. Just live that life. You could fly to private jet to LA, all the things that you want to do, but then he could grow somewhat organically. Mm-hmm. I understand. So the teams you look for again is not the Lakers, but I don't know. I just think he's a guy that needs to go. Here's my massive trade that I really love.
Oh, wow. Here we go.
Okay. The Nets, this is a 3-team trade. Nets, Hawks, Jazz. Okay. The Nets get Mike Conley, Malik Beasley, and John Collins. The Hawks get Patty Mills and Joe Harris and maybe like a pick. The Jazz get Ben Simmons. All of it works financially. This is why it happens. Malik Beasley instead of Jared Vanderbilt because you're trading Joe Harris. The Hawks, it seems like the Hawks are all over the map. At one point, it seems like John Collins is like 3 first-round picks and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And now it's been reported increasingly that the value for what they're expecting for John Collins is going down and down. They are a mess in the locker room. They have been for years. John Collins has been on the block for years. John Collins and Ben Simmons together make no sense.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
The Hawks need shooting. They need a good person, just like who's a better person than Joe Harris? And Patty Mills. Patty Mills is in this trade.
Okay.
2 great guys.
Couple guys.
Two shooters go over there. Malik Beasley and Mike Conley are very much on the market.
Mm-hmm.
Tim McMahon was on Zach Lowe's pod. He was talking about how the Jazz are willing basically to trade anyone, not for cheap, but will trade anyone besides Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler, and the rookie that they got from Kansas, or the guy who they got from Cleveland. Guys, I don't even know his name. It doesn't even matter.
Are you talking about Colin Sexton?
No, it's not Colin Sexton. It's like OG Achua or something like that. Okay. I forget what his name is. So those guys are available. So you give the Jazz Ben Simmons, who maybe they kind of want, who's on a longer-term deal, a much higher ceiling than what Mike Conley and Malik Beasley are, of course. The Nets get a backup point guard or a guard to play with Kyrie in certain moments. A real point guard. That's who Mike Conley is, a real point guard. A shooter to replace the Joe Harris, and John Collins to replace Ben Simmons. You do all this.
Mm-hmm.
John Collins is actually on a longer contract for cheaper money than Ben Simmons. He's a way better player. So then your starting 5 is Kyrie, probably Royce O'Neal or Malik Beasley or Seth Curry, whichever the shooter wings you want. Maybe it's Mike Conley just to represent a little starter. KD, John Collins, and Nick Claxton. And you have your size.
I don't hate it, Mike. I don't hate it.
You have real size now. You can play John Collins as a small ball 5 in certain lineups.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have to do this whole thing of would the Hawks want to sell John Collins at that rate? Would the Jazz want Ben Simmons? I don't know. I think it feels like a place that could be close to.
The Hawks have been posturing wildly about what John Collins is worth. I mean, if that's the return, they're probably... I mean, that would be a big L for them potentially, but but let's take that out of the equation. I mean, I don't know. What do you think is the highest offer that they're possibly going to get for John Collins?
I think if it's funny if I don't know what team. Are you a contender trying to get John Collins, or are you Pacers, those kind of teams that are because Collins is relatively young and on a long contract, we'll grab him. For the Utah Jazz, it's interesting because, again, they can't get guys as free agents, but if you trade for guys on long-term contracts, that's the other thing about the Jazz. They'll never get someone like Ben Simmons signing with them, but you get them in your program, and you hope that Will Hardy coaches them up and all that stuff.
It's sort of it's kind of like the Aaron Gordon on the Nuggets sort of situation. If you have a good enough team, he's the kind of guy that could just helpful, super useful, but kind of is again diminished in their stature and their career, whatever, potentially on something like this. Does John Collins does he want to go to a team where he can or not him wanting to, whether that's the case or not doesn't matter, but is there an ascendant version of John Collins to be unlocked on the Pacers or whatever? Have we seen the best of John Collins? I'm not sure, because the Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets thing was sort of okay, you've done your sort of that version of your career, and now let's get you onto a winning team where you're doing a little bit less to greater effect.
I think I've seen John Collins in interviews. I think he's a good dude. It seems like most of the bad vibes in Atlanta come from Trae Young, the Trae Young camp. Mm-hmm. The problem with John Collins is that he does consume the space that Nick Claxton consumes. John Collins is a great pick and roll big because he can pick and pop and he can roll and he's athletic. He dunks, which is another thing. Give me some dunks. I want.
It is what I do like the Mike Conley pairing with John Collins, because otherwise we don't really have. We don't really have a lot of pick and roller guards to play with him. Kyrie could do that more, but we don't even do that much even with Nick Claxton, who's pretty pick and rollable.
Clax and Kyrie are doing more of it.
They're doing more
lately, particularly with KD out. I think they've realized, we got to
have an offense, something. We got to do a thing.
We got to do a thing as opposed to just like dribbling around.
Yeah.
Now, is this like too much change? Is it too much insertion into the middle of the team?
It's a lot of insertion, Mike.
Like Joe Harris is pretty like easy player to play with because you know what he's going to do. Patty Mills doesn't play. My whole thing is that, like, again, I don't trust Ben Simmons, and I actually think he's very incredibly tough to play with because he just is unlike any player in the NBA. It's not easy to play with Ben Simmons. So I think there's going to be a freeing mentality for other Nets to be like, if we're playing with like just regular NBA players who are low end starters or somewhat talented who play like normal people, then we can all play like normal people. We don't have to like do a special offense. It's kind of like
it's like sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, cut me off.
Yeah. There is like a thing where we're like, it's going to take so much time to integrate new players. Well, it takes a long ass time to integrate Ben Simmons. Like it could take like 3 whole years to like totally unlock the Ben Simmons of the future.
Do we have 3 years to do that?
No,
do you think we do?
No, we don't.
Do you? Because like, if this team loses in the second round, let's say it's a really good second round series, it's a 7-game series, really competitive. If it's like the Nets play the Bucks in the second round, I mean, and they lose, is that truly a disappointment?
Yeah, there's another part to it where, like, I'm thinking about, like, do the Nets have more to gain by winning these regular season games? Like, the regular season so far has been weird. This, like, for the NBA, broadly speaking, just, like, a huge amount of people scoring tons of points and stuff like that. And, like, we when all our big three, if we're calling it that still, we're all playing, we were winning games. And it's like, but it sounds like to me, like, and you know, if I'm wrong, you tell me, is there a vein of distrust running through those regular season wins that, like, we're maybe trying a little bit harder, like we have a little bit more to prove to get those wins in the regular season than some of the other really good teams in the East? Are we buying it all the way? And furthermore, does it even matter if we get to the playoffs where the game condenses down and we have a pretty obvious flaw in our big three?
I believe in this team. I believe in everyone on this team but Ben Simmons.
Wow, I can't believe you, this 180, this heel turn.
We haven't potted in a while. We just haven't potted.
It's a week. In a week, you've gone. It's a heel turn.
This is all I've been thinking about.
You've been stewing. I got to start talking to you more. You're left to your own devices. You go dark.
I've gone really dark. I've been watching Cronenberg movies only, and I'm just,
have you?
My mind. No, I'm terrified.
Infinity Pool. I'm going to go see it this weekend.
Yeah.
That's his son's movie, so not the same. But
he seems like a real nice guy.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him. Is he not a nice guy?
He just looks sad in all of the like press photos of him with the beautiful Alexander Skarsgård. Who
I like.
Should we be concerned about Skarsgård? I mean, like every role he's in, he's basically getting like just pummeled.
Yeah, I don't know. I like how you went like he looks like he looks like a nice guy, and he's like, well, he looks sad. So wait. That's so. I'm just getting
Cheer
a lot
up.
of.
You made a movie. God damn it! Smile. You made a movie about breastfeeding. Is that what the movie's about?
I don't know. I got to see it. I got to watch it. Have you seen Crimes of the Future yet? There's a lot of good stuff in Crimes of the Future. It's not scary. Yeah, it's like classic Cronenberg stuff. I mean, he's like in his 80s making these movies now. It's quite a feat. Quite a feat. I'm here for it. I'm here for the ride.
Cronenberg. No, I don't know. All right. So this was kind of an answer. The real quick ones, like we talk about Seth Curry. I wouldn't want to trade Seth Curry because I just really value what he does. I do think there's an interesting idea of trading Seth Curry for Jay Crowder. I don't really want Jay Crowder. I think there's a better chance that he's washed than like a real asset to a contender. Mm-hmm. But I don't want Jay Crowder on the Bucks or the Celtics. Like I would be, as much as I don't think Jay Crowder is great, I would fear him on the Celtics in particular because it just gives them another defender to rough up our beautiful basketball players. I would fear him on the Bucks because it gives them another basketball player. Because like each of those teams are about a player short on their bench, and Jay Crowder slots in nicely to each of those contenders, or Miami, of course. But Miami, I'm not like terrified of, regardless. And so I wonder if like there's some game theory of the Nets
just
trading,
taking him off the market so that somebody else doesn't get him.
Take him off the market, and the Nets actually have pieces that the Suns could want. It's funny though, the Nets keep trading small shooters to the Suns
Yeah.
Like, what's happened to Landry Shamet? Remember
Yeah.
remember how we had to defend Landry Shamet?
Shamwow? Yeah.
That's it. That's the pod. I mean, I think the Nets are going to make a trade. I think Sean Marks is desperate. I don't know if it's going to be Ben Simmons, but because we've heard no Ben Simmons rumors. But if I'm desperate, if I'm thinking from Sean Marks, if I'm desperate and Ben is doing what he's doing, which is fine, but not great, that's the button I'm pressing.
I'm like the conspiracy of the shadow market. I mean, I'm just into it that like you think that there's conversations being had. Is that what you're trying to tell me, Mike? And do you have special insight? Who have you been talking to? Again, you've been talking to
Daryl
people.
Morey and I.
Yeah.
Him and I do a podcast about Hong Kong.
Oh my gosh. Spicy. Mike, where do they find us?
Find us on Twitter at BKGlueGuys, netsdaily.com, The Athletic. Get yourself on the paywall at theathletic.com. Look for Between the Lines on The Athletic Football Show coming out
Really,
Valentine's Day, February 14th.
hats off to you, Mike. Congrats on the hard work. You put in work.
Yeah,
All right.
work.
Bye, everybody. So long.